Hello there and welcome to my little arty corner here on YouTube. I'm Angela and I love to draw and I love to share drawings with you, things you can draw along with me and create, share how I do things, my techniques, my tricks, my thoughts, why I put things where they do. That's if I know. I do tend to work very intuitively, and when I start a video I often have no idea of what I'm going to do, but today I do, because I did this yesterday. A video yesterday and I forgot to click on record. Yep, so 2 hours later I realised, oops. And by that time I thought, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. But sometimes it's nice to see where we're going to start, and it will change no doubt as I do this, and I'll explain something else. For this I used a Pentel Preppy fountain pen that is filled with Aurora Borealis Diamine Ink, which is washable. It's not waterproof, it's water soluble, which means I have to choose any media to add colour quite carefully. And I chose to do this with pastel pencils. So I've got white, I've got this lovely greeny blue tealy colour, and then I've got this greeny blue colour here. It is blue with a hint of green, I think. I've got a darker blue for shadows, and I've got purple here because I realised if I use purple with that green you get kind of an alien-y glow or spooky glow about things, and well, you know. I also used a white hybrid gel DX pen. DX means it's waterproof, it's pigment, and yeah, and a silver hybrid dual metallic pen. Both of these pens are from Pentel, and the silver one, I don't often use silver, but silver is actually my favourite metal next to copper. There's something about copper that is just so gorgeous. It's that lovely warm pinky glow, and then it's that beautiful verdigris it gets on it when it weathers and ages. And if I move this you can see how silvery that pen is. What I haven't done with this was to use clear glaze pen to seal that in. But I think as this is like a bookmark or a tag, I may laminate this. So I'll just keep that out for today. This, do you know, I go round and round in circles and then suddenly I go, oh, I've got lots of these discs here. Why don't I use those to create a little sketchbook journal thingy, what's it? And I know you can get much bigger discs than this, and so that's what I'm doing. I know I've used this before in the past on my videos, but if you haven't seen these, they're great. And you can move things about obviously and click things in. You do need a special hole punch. You can buy individual ones that just punch one mushroom at a time. They do look like little mushrooms. I've got a big one that will do up to A4 width, which means if I wanted to I could bind A3 landscape. Yeah. Good. There we go. So I'll move that out the way. Now I'm going to find some glasses, which is always a good thing, and I am going to pop on here some borders, because this is going to be a page in my journaly thing, which I think might work quite nicely. Now if I make this, I've got this about 14, well, let's do it a little bit less than 14. How about, I hate doing this. How big is it? 15.2, so it's 7.567, so that's halfway along. I can't make it 7, 14. I can make it 6.5, 13. No, that's not even halfway. What am I doing? 7. It's less than 7.5. It's that way. There we are. It's better. That'll do. Yeah, 6.5 will work. I'll find the ruler so I can give you this in inches, but this ruler's in centimetres. Okay, and I think most probably 5 centimetres will be just dandy. There we go. Drawn it a bit wider, but I'm fine about wider. And do you know what's the nice thing I've just realised is that even though I'm going to draw this here on this part of my page, do that so it looks roughly. See, I haven't even quite drawn it that long. Ooh. Throw the ruler everywhere, Angela, why don't you? So it's just a tad over 5 inches high and just under 2 inches wide. I'm going to go and get the other ruler because I am going to continue this border around the page, the rest of the page. While I'm at it, I might as well do it this way. So I hope you're all fine and well, that life is treating you well. I'm having wobbly-ish days still. Yesterday was a bit of a hectic day because I had 2 medical appointments, one via phone call, which was brilliant because, you know, I didn't have to leave my home for that. The other one I had to go into the surgery because it required physical checks being made, but all's fine, except that I'm now officially anemic. Even though I've been taking iron tablets for the best part of 2 months, my iron level has gone down below normal. So all sorts of things need looking into, starting with a check of, pardon this, but poop screening. So I'm waiting for a kit to be sent so I can do that. So if we have a look here, I've got some lovely motifs. I've got these seeds down here. I've got these kinds of leaves which have turned into kind of seed pods as well, because you know me, I love a seed pod. And I've got these lovely flowers up here. So over here, I think I'll start by drawing the motifs with you and doing that one at a time. And I will zoom in, hopefully. Let me just double check on my autofocus. That's okay. So this is where I can draw and write things if I want to. So I'll start with one type of seed pod, which is the one I'm going to start with on the other side. And to draw this, I'm starting with a nice round oval shape. Yeah. Do you know, I think I'm going to do it a little bit different to how I did it there. I'm going to start by putting 2 straight lines coming roughly out the top middle. Well, anywhere. Doesn't matter what shape you have. You could have it short and wide if you wished. Just I happen to draw mine that way. Or any other shape in the middle. A rounded square would be interesting, or a hexagon would be. Oh yeah. I might do some variations now. This could end up becoming something quite different, you know that. And then I'm just going to put little curls around the ends like this, because that's how I'm going to get the winged part, or the wider part here. It's not so easy to see, one of my hands in the way. But that's my first example. I'll do another one, perhaps with a squarish, well, rectangular shaped thingy. And I'll make this connector part a bit of a different shape. It looks like a weird kind of bone going through a lump of meat or a piece of cheese. I much prefer cheese. And so again, I'm going to have that little bit kicking out there. And on this side, so I'll have it frilly-ish instead of perfectly nice and straight as a variation. I said about hexagon, didn't I? Hexagons have got 6 sides, so there's my hexagon, and it's rounded because I think seeds should be rounded. And here, that looks like a 3-fingered hand on either side. Honestly, it's not meant to be. Just have that coming around like so. So 3 different kinds of seeds, just by changing, sorry I went off the screen there, just by changing the shape inside. So I'm not going to add all, well I might, well no, I won't add all the details on these, but let's see what we can do. My original one, as I do with everything, I'm going to start by adding extra ink, making lines thicker to denote where there's going to be some shadow. So I often do left and bottom on the outside of objects. and inside objects, top and right. Though that can vary, because if I swap it round, if it's on the inside, then it looks like, if I put them on here, it would look like we've got a hole here, and I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll show you that. Okay, so a little bit here and here. That one can go thicker as well. That bit can there. So if I do this one distinctly to the top and right here, and you compare it to the one I've just done, this really does look like there's a hole. And I'm just going to quickly add shadowing to the left and bottom. You could go all the way around the frilly bits, but I'm looking where this one is almost curving out here, so it's almost at the top, like this one, and this one's at the top. So I'm going to start part way down before I start adding ink, and again, oops, as I go right or wrong there, there'll be some ink there. Left and bottom. And we can look up here, because this one is sort of, that side needs some here, and just a little bit there. And then what I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to pop a line there that I'm going to make thicker, almost like that's stuck in, and then I'm going to add a shadow to this side, and then we've got a little seed in there. The other thing I think I might do with this one is put a little aura here, like so. And then these little bits I'm going to add down to this. So it's like these are woven together, these layers. And perhaps I'll just put another narrow layer in there. And just to help with a sense of volume or dimension, or 3D appearance, put some into the left and right. Now that can be brought out with shading and so on later. This one I'm just going to do the same idea as the first one. Left and bottom, like so, and this is quite a simple shape, it'll be halfway round this side and this side the same, really. Looks a bit like an apple with a weird seed in there. Then to make the seed dimensional, we want shadow on the left but not on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some concentric circles, and I'm going to make the ends of them just that little bit wider to help the eye follow round. They're not circles, they're parts of circles, aren't they? Arcs, I don't know, letter C's, and then perhaps just a small one in there. And that starts to add some volume to that. And I can do the same here. I haven't got so much space to play with in this seed, so I'll just put that one in. Made a bit of a mess there, that's fine. And this one, it's a little bit like this. And I won't put anything on the ends, I'm just going to go like that. On the outside, what I've done on the bookmark is I've drawn curved lines from the centre out, like this, with a break in the middle, and I'm having them bend upwards towards the top of the seed. And these lines will be wider apart on the outside edge and narrower together as we get closer. So that's one way of doing this. By bending the lines, we're suggesting that the surface is curved. If you imagine it like if I could put my finger on and move it, it would go up and down, you know, it would move upwards and back down again. And that's what these lines are suggesting. It's sort of like your brain almost transfers it into that feeling of, oh, that's how they would move. That's how they would look if we curve that. And one thing I didn't do yesterday, but I'll do for part of these, is that it's quite nice to finish these on the outside with a bit of extra ink, because that helps to enhance that feeling that these are further away, that there's more shadow there. And you can see the difference between the ones that haven't got this on and these ones. It takes a little bit extra time, but I think it's worth it. One variation we could use is to use narrow stripes that get wider towards the edge. And then if we were to fill these in with colour or with texture, which is something I may do, and I'm just going to fill them in with lines that start very close together. In the middle they're going to get a little bit wider, and then they're going to get right close together towards the edge. So this is another way of adding some interest to this, by using the idea that the more ink you've got in a space, the darker it looks and the further away it looks. So I'm deciding I want my highlights here, and then on either side I can just start to move these lines closer and closer together, perhaps even ending with a block of ink. So here's where my main highlight will be. And so we can do that, and we can work that around. Of course, you could fill this in completely with ink and just leave a blank space in the middle, either very structured like this or a bit raggedy. The choice is yours. I quite like using different textures, because when I come to add colour with chalk pastels, this texture will still show through. It'll be a bit muted, but it will show through. If I'd used waterproof ink and used watercolours with it, it would definitely show through. Or water-soluble media, whether it's watercolour paint or anything else. Right, here I'm going to actually join this together and fill it in, because I've lost this now here. And I think what I might do, actually, is bring that out here. I can always put a highlight back on with a gel pen if I need to. That just wasn't looking right. So it's okay to change things. Sometimes you notice things when you take a break. Actually, I really like that. And that's a good example of using black and white stripes. Here I'm going to use the base of these wobbly bits to put some curved lines in. So these are dictating how many lines will be close together and where they go. But again, I'm bending them upwards to mimic the curve. Of this frilly bit around the seed. Like so. And that could be interesting to add pattern and texture to. Now you've got choices. You can either do pattern and texture in these narrow ones, or perhaps we could put some in these little spaces. Now, which is the best way to do this? I'm going to add some betweed, and I'm going to do it from the middle in. So I think that's the best way for this to work on shapes like this. So again, I'm drawing curved lines that go from the bottom on the left towards the middle at the top, on the right, left, right. Now they start to overlap, and we keep that overlapping going, and it creates a nice woven pattern in the middle. This one again. Takes a while sometimes in a bigger space before they start to meet. Just persevere. Meet and overlap usually, like so. And then here, the last one. So I'll only do one side because it's nice to leave one as a comparison. Like so. That actually works nicely because it puts almost like dips in there, or you know, sort of like yeah. There are other things we can do. So the pattern I used in my last video of bricks and a network, kind of, that would work as well. It would look like cells. I'm doing it with the very blocky kinds of textures, just fitting them in as they need to fit in, some shorter and some wider than others, following the contours of the lines where I can. And some are becoming a bit more triangular. So I've got that kind of grid pattern, and if I want this to appear like holes, top and right. And then this looks like we've got holes going through this. It's lacy. I quite like that. So that's another way. We could put circles in, which are thicker at the bottom, and I'm adding the shadow on the outside of the circle so it changes shape to suggest a shadow there. But I'm leaving a little break at the top because that would be a little highlighted spot. And they can go to the edge, and perhaps not quite. This one here is right on the very edge, and that's fine. You can have enormous ones. Tiny little dutty ones. Dut, D-W-T, is a Welsh word that means little, tiny. If you describe someone as dutty, they're sort of like small and cute. It's so dutty. Yeah, it's a lovely word, a little dut. And it does sound like dot, but it's not the same. It's a dut, D-W-T, dutty. So one simple form with variations, and there's even more I could do. I've got hankering to fill one of these in now with Diva Dance. I'm going to do it. Am I going to draw a bookmark? Maybe not today. Perhaps I'll just do some variations with you. Is that okay? So that one's got a more pointed ovally shape, hasn't it? So let's do this. I'm going to pop a wavy edge on this one because I know that Diva Dance will work well, and I'll be working the Diva Dance from the inside out, I think. I am going to pop a little border around this though. Again, I'm overlapping things because I quite like overlaps. I've missed there and they've joined up, but that's fine. Okay, so Diva Dance. We're going to start by Aura-ing inside here, and I'm going to put some extra little wobbles in. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill these with ink, and we can exaggerate them if we wish. So this one can go perhaps a little bit further up and that way, and here. And I really want them blobbing outwards as well, as it were. There's a lot more blobs here than I'd like, but I'm fine with that, because it will sort itself out as we get smaller and smaller. So I've got a chain of inky blobs here, so I'm going to now pour this. And then I'm going to add some inky blobs in some places. I'm not going to do quite as many. Or perhaps I will. If I won't, because we haven't got the space. Here, I'm just going to smooth that one out, I think. And then add this. Like so. I've got a little bit there. I'm going to fill that in with ink. And I think I'm going to fill this one in with ink. This one can definitely be filled with ink. Perhaps a little lumpy bit up. This one too. And then so that's got some diva dance in it that way. What about if we do it in the other direction? Can we? Oh, of course we can. I wish I had a finer nib for this job. But I don't. This is an 03. Yeah, it is an 03 nib. You can get them in 02. I've got one in 02, and I've been quite tempted to get some more so I can fill them with different colours. This Aurora Borealis is beautiful. It's a kind of tealy colour. And it can dry. The lovely thing about this ink is that it dries with different depths of colour, depending on how much ink you put and how much you layer over it. And I rather am enjoying that. When you use black, and the black is quite intense, that's all you get is black. But with coloured ink, it's rather lovely. So this works quite nicely this way as well. I guess it depends what you prefer and what you fancy doing. Some ways this is nicer because you get more of the pattern in than round the other way. Okay. They're looking like weird donuts now, isn't it? And I suspect there's going to be a fair amount of ink towards the edge here. There'll be some in the middle, but because the lines will be closer together in the middle, I guess, that means we're going to end up with a different contrast made there, shadow made there with ink in a slightly different way, which is fine by me. And if there isn't enough contrast, well, I'm still going to add some shading, regardless. And yet I'm going to use chalk pastels because I can and because I like them. That's one thing I discovered yesterday when I was doing the bookmark, was how much I enjoyed using them, and think, why don't I use these more often? The answer is, I don't know. Too many different things to play with, that's the problem. But perfect for using with this fountain pen ink. So that one there, so that's a completely different look again, yet all created in the same kind of way. I'm going to put a very simple kind of shadow in here. A line with some dots that end it. And that can get darker towards the bottom, I suppose, like that. So let's have a look at those. So that's what I've done so far. All constructed in a similar way, the basic bones of them, just with a circle here, a rectangle there, hexagon here, and back to a more pointy, you know, sort of like different kind of shape there, with this part in the middle. And I varied the shape of that and how I connect it in some of them. In fact, these need some shading as well, just to bring those out. I say shading, it's not shading, it's adding shadow, like so. Then to this one. And the amount of pattern you put in or texture you put in is entirely up to you and how you do it. There are many different ways. And I'm going to go to a different one. Let's have one that's kind of ovalish in shape. I'm going to put quite a short little... I was going to do something. What's I going to do? Oh yeah, I know. So here at the end, I've just put a little bump up. And then I'm going to put some concentric lines there just to give me that sense of shading on one side. So what I can do here is around the centre, I'm going to put in tiny little squarish, circlish shapes, varying in size just a little bit from, with width and height. I'm also going to do small ones around the edge. Now there's a reason why I'm doing this, because I find it easier if I put the small ones in first and then I can put the bigger ones in where I want them. And if you vary it, it doesn't look quite so contrived, I suppose. Put some small ones actually here, so that would make some sense, because there'd be a bit more shadow perhaps there, like so. And then these parts we're going to see what size we can fit in places and create much larger elements that fill this in. And again, there's more white paper, less ink in the centre here, so it puts a natural highlight in. Just like that. So that's another way of doing this. And another way would be to create a kind of network. I'm going to add, that's like an upside down Y. And I'm going to do that in places. And maybe go back and just add extra bits on here and there. I'm going to get some interesting shapes going on, and it may be that every now and again I just do one that's the other way around, just to fill this space in a nicer way. So here now I can go back to adding a Y shape like that, and perhaps here we can add one in. And then I can add one in upside down just to fill that space quite nicely. And then here I can definitely add one there. So that's got a different kind of feel to it as well. And I am going to add some ink to the ends of these lines just to add that more natural shadow. My phone's pinging like nobody's business beside me. And it can happily ping. I'm arting. So there's another two ways. With this one, I'm going to fill that there with this. Which is quite nice. So 5 drawings. How many variations of filling this in have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's 6 and 7 because 8, 9, 10, 11. And different shapes in the middle. It's whatever you want to do. We could even put a peanut kind of shape in the middle if you wanted to. Because who says you can't? Could have the ends coming out this way. In fact, that would be quite fun, I think. Like so. And peanuts have kind of a squarish network of things on them, don't they? I don't know why my phone is pinging so much. It's not like it to go ping, 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 like that. 2 ticks. I'm going to have a look because it's annoying me now. Come on. Right, that was one thing. What else? Mercedes Garage asking me if I'm still alright for a booking next week, and the answer is no, I'm not. So they'll reschedule for me. Forgotten about that. But it's okay. So we've got a different kind of central shape there. And we can also put in, on these, I'm going to put little shadows on the inside, because those shapes in peanuts, you know, the texture, it is sort of like a raised network, isn't it, of around, sort of like these little indents. We can even put some of these around the edge as well, part ones at the top and bottom, and it'll work. That's quite fun. And of course you can also put more than one in the middle. So let's have a look. So there's one that's sort of triangular shaped, because yes, you could do triangular shaped things as well. Yeah. So I've got 3 here. Maybe not identical in shape, but there's a cluster of them. And I'm going to put a centre in them. This time is something a little bit different. So that looks, I always like this, especially if I put a little shiny spot in it. In other words, leave a little highlight. And we can just join them together with a bit of ink. Inky glue required. And then I'm still going to put a rod through the middle of it, because that ties it together with these. So instead of one seed, this one now has a cluster. So on that side I've put a really wavy thing, and on this one have it pointing outwards. Now I think I should have drawn my baseline in here in pencil to help me do this, or I should have worked from this end up. But it is what it is. So different ways of doing this and approaching this. I'll do the bookmark with you another day. How about that? Does that sound good? Yeah. Or once you've got these, you can figure out how to do it yourself, which is even more beneficial. You learn far more that way. Sort of. This was not my intention, but I'm having so much fun doing this. And of course it'll be a source of inspiration for me as well. So what can I do here? With these, I'm going to go on the side of each of these curves. I'm going to go down to a point and back out like that. So I'm creating like a very curved pointy triangle. And then I'm going to fill that triangle, the bottom of the triangle on the outside of the seed pod in. And it makes it feel like we've got folds here, almost, or petals, or both. And of course there's nothing to stop us putting pattern inside those if we want to. You know, so if I Aura one and put the shadow on the left and top like that, then it looks like we've got a hole in there. I'll do that all the way around actually, because that is quite fun. Top and round rather, sorry. Top and left. Top and right even. Let's try and get it right, is it? Getting quite tight in places, but we'll be all right. So we've got that on one side, and on this side, what could be fun, and I will put some pencil lines in here. So I'm going to put some pencil lines in from kind of the edges of these. Am I? No, I'm not. That would be getting silly. But what I can do is do kind of network of shapes in a pattern that I did in my last video, I think, wasn't it, with the bookmark there, with that kind of blocky pattern. We can do something similar here. Perhaps drawing these in first might have been an idea, and then we could have put the pointy bits where they needed, but it works either way. So there's another one, just from the same basic structure. And just to remind you, how about this? So we start with this, then we go to this, or just the straight line works, then to this, so I'll move it that way, and then it will be embellish. I think that's the right word. Because that goes for adding thickness to lines and everything else. So all of those from that basic kind of pattern, that basic kind of idea. Central seed or points, some rods coming off it, whether it's a single line or complicated lines, and then these kinds of wings coming off that we can fill with pattern. And the number of patterns you can put in there, the way you fill them, is absolutely endless. It really is. So that's quite nice. I like that. Okie dokes. I did see over here this. I'm just going to remove some ink here. So that's one of these. So that's quite nice. Okay, what about some other things? Well, I've got these leaves here, and I'm going to draw the leaves with you. I'm going to start at the bottom because we're going to have them growing. I say leaves because they're kinds of seeds as well. So I gave them a nice long stem that's got some width to it. And then at the top I'm going to put a little rounded cap on it like that, little top like that. Part way down, or from the top here, I'm going to draw in something that is kind of heart shaped like that. And then from the top to here, I'm going to add something that can become a seed pod. And if I aura it and pop some nested seeds, I suppose they're nested because they're nested one behind each other, aren't they, in there? And that gives you the idea that we've got a completely different kind of seed pod growing here. To add shadow, again, it's the same. We're adding weight to the lines to the left and bottom, just to the left here. That I could split hairs about which is left and bottom. Here is left as well. That's bottom. There's a little bit of left there, and this goes around to the bottom. If you're not sure where to stop, just go about halfway up that curve when it starts to get straight. And then we need to fill this with some texture and pattern. My example here, I used these, which I actually christened little pustules. I remember saying that. Look, they're little pustules full of pus. Except the plant is now sparkly and pink, purple and green, and I just think it's a magical healing plant. Because, you know, why not? The more I do videos, the more I feel able to allow my silly and daft side out at times with things. I'm not always confident about it. I've grown up being told that I'm an embarrassment for my sense of humour and my imagination and things, and made fun of for it. So it's not easy for me to allow that side out of me unless I know people well. And I feel like I'm beginning to know some of you quite well for joining me in the chats when I do video premieres. Now, I won't be able to do a premiere of this evening being Wednesday the 23rd of August, because I've got something else I need to do this evening. I've got somewhere else to be online. But I'm thinking about doing a live stream, as you know, and I just want to organise that at a time where some of you could join me and I could check out how it works more than anything else, even if it's just for a short time. So if you're prepared to do that, just leave a comment and we'll find a way of communicating and setting up a time and day that could happen. And it'd be quite interactive, and I'd be happy to stay there and do things as long as you wish, if I've got the time to, obviously. Yeah. So that could be quite fun, and then that could be something that could happen on a fairly regular basis. So that works quite nicely. And what I'd also do with this is I'd just put a little extra shadow at the base of these, just to give it some extra darkness there and suggest roundness as well. And that's exactly what I did with the ones on my bookmark. So if I bring that over, you can see these here. The only thing I haven't done is I also created a stripy stem, because I like stripy stems. I find stripy things quite fun to do and fun to look at. It's a simple way of adding interest and helping to differentiate one thing from another. So we've got that happening. Variations, well, you can put all kinds of patterns in there, but we can also have all kinds of shapes on the top, can't we? So here I'll do the more traditional sort of poke root kind of top, and we can add perhaps a big round seed there, but perhaps we've also got some seeds inside. I'm going to have this not touching that little hole where the stem goes, because the stem's going somewhere else. But I'm going to put a bit of an edge on this, and I'm going to make it all kind of wonky, well, wobbly wonky, interesting, shall we say. Let's add some ink for the shadows before I do anything else. I have to say that this is one of my favourite things to do, and I don't do it nearly enough nowadays with you, or for myself, is starting with one thing and just seeing how I can vary it and coming up with different ideas. And you never come up with all the possibilities. That's the lovely thing about it. So in here I want to put some seeds, and I'm going to start with big ones in the middle and then smaller ones towards the outside, just to fill that space in. Some might be a little bit bigger than others, and I'm fine with that. So we've got this here, and this then needs some shadows itself, doesn't it? Because we could have this as if it's going inside as if it's, you know, part of a stepped hole inside, but I've decided to have it so it looks like it's above the base of this. And the simplest way to add some dimension to this is to add these kinds of, again, curved lines that suggest there's some kind of, gets interesting towards the top. When you get right to the top, put a straight line in, same at the bottom. And these suggest that we've got something attached to this central bit that is sort of like flowing and flapping behind it, I suppose. But again, we can do this kind of pattern here on the end, just to add that extra ink around the outside edge that helps to push it much further away, the illusion of it being much further away. Doesn't take long to do, but it just makes that little bit of a difference. I'm getting lost in this now. Yappy dogs barking at the back of my house. Okay, somebody will come out and shout at them in a moment. Their owner will, most probably. Okay, so this is interesting, but what's nice is if in some instances you might put some pattern in alternating ones. So instead of putting pattern in everyone like I did with the betweed here, I'll put them in alternating ones, because the betweed is almost a bit lost there, but it's still quite nice, and can certainly work with that. So I'm going to miss this one and just put some here, and if I remember, I'm going to try and put a big one or two right in the centre and have smaller ones towards the edge, because that puts ink in and automatically we've got a highlight then in the centre. Even in the smaller spaces we can do that. Just a simple way of creating that highlight and shadow in these. Of course, adding colour will bring those out that little bit more. Again, if you like this kind of thing, just leave a comment in the box below, or in the comments below, and I'm going to have to try and set up a schedule for what I'm going to do on which days of the week, where my week is a fairly regular week where I haven't got random stuff happening. That could be quite nice. Now I've got one behind here, so I'm going to extend this one in a naughty kind of way, in a way that hopefully you won't notice that I've extended it. So we've got that there, and that automatically adds, you can see the highlight that's there. One more for this. Oh, this stem I am going to put stripes in. I'm going to do it a bit differently, because I'm going to put solid stripes, single line, solid one, line, solid one. Just a simple variation on how to add that kind of pattern. And this one, I think I'm going to follow this around, and I'm going to have a little bit on the top here, like so, little bobbly bit, and why don't we have something growing out of that? Little leaf on the top, like so. Cuteness overload. So time, oh gosh, 54 minutes already, would you believe it? Seriously. So here, drawn the top end, and I've drawn two sort of almost triangular shapes there, capped the end, and then I'm going to fill in around it so it looks like this is disappearing into a sea of darkness. And then what shape can I put here? something like that. And for this one, I'm going to do here, I think I may just put some stripy borders here. I'm going to leave the bottom edge here as it is because I think I want it to appear like it might actually be a bottom part to this seed, like so. And then we just need to, this is the bottom of the seed pod because it's lower than the other side. I'm just going to add some line weight. I've got some bumpy bits there where the lines are. I'm going to add a bit over here as well, but not as much. There we go. And then on the bottom ones of these, there is a reason why. Because we haven't got any seeds here anywhere, have we? So I reckon we're going to have some seeds here that are going to be joined like this. And then we can have some more here. We can draw them across there. Some here. Here's my seeds. They're all in strings. It's a bit like Diva Dance again, but this time I've got strings of them. And perhaps this little bit, I'll work out where I want my highlights there. And I can really get these going narrower and narrower and narrow towards the side. Didn't do a very good job on that one, but I can do the same here. Bearing in mind these highlights will get smaller towards the top because it's getting narrower. And here the same, like that. And here I'm just going to put a double border in there because we can put something different in this part. You can go back and adjust these shapes if you wish because these are a bit wonky. I'm definitely going to put an extra border around here because then I can have lines radiating out from this like this is some kind of weird mushroom, perhaps. Like so. I'll leave the top bits as they are. I need to go and get something a moment, so I'll be back. Okay, so there's lots of other variations we could do with this. Oh, my light's just gone off. There we are, it was on a timer obviously. There we go. It's sunny outside now as well, kid you not. So there are lots of variations on this. And with some of these, I'm going to leave this stem just plain and clear, but I am going to really make the sides of it very dark and apparent. It's disappearing in there. You can fill these in with the same pattern or different patterns depending on what you'd like to do. I did add some leaves to these, and I added quite simple leaves on, I say simple. So that kind of hook shape, an upside down V with a curved bottom. I'm going to go from this point up to there, and then about that distance down here, back in. That will work as a leaf. You could have others that are like little circles on the ends. Actually, I quite like those because they're quite dainty. We could have leaves that genuinely are little leaves going out, like so. Ones that are like grass, as if this is growing out of some grass. Lots of possibilities, lots of them. So whatever shape you want to put on the end, you can. It could be diamond, it could be square, it could be a teardrop, it could be an upside down teardrop, it could be like a ginkgo leaf, which would be fun actually. Just do that one quickly. Like so. And then we're going to draw a little bit over the top that's got little nibbles out of the curve. And in those nibbles is where the seeds can go. The wider the nibbles, the bigger your seeds. And I'm going to have those joined down to the stem. Like so. So we've got a nice, oh you didn't see that, I'm sorry. But we've got a nice ginkgo leaf here. What I checked I was on the screen, I wasn't. Guess I'm getting tired now. Okay, just one more thing to do then, and that's these flowers. So I'll add some flowers in here. And they all are going to start with the same centre. 2 circles, one inside the other. I'm going to, on the outside one, in this case I'm going to put the shadow on the bottom and left, and the inner one to the top and the right, but there are variations on this. So I'm going to use a pencil this time to draw in how big I want my flower to be. I don't normally, but to help. And then I'm going to start by drawing in just some simple petals. It's helped you to keep the petals all about the same length and positioning the flower, making sure it's the right size compared to others. So these are this is a kind of daisy-ish flower. Turn the paper if you wish. I'm trying to keep mine straight still so I don't drift off camera. Oh, yeah. I still do. I try my best, honestly, I do. So that's the basic version. Interesting things to add. Lines with dots that are open, dots that are closed. Perhaps heart-shaped ones, which these would be the stamen. Just simple circles, perhaps as holes. You could just have a couple of lines just to add weight at the bottom. You could add some from the top as well, which would give you a highlight in the middle. So I'll do some here so you can see what it is, and I'm flicking my pen so that the end just trails off a little bit. So that's a simple way of doing those. In the middle, I'll leave this one blank, but the middles we could do all kinds of things with. So let me just draw another middle. Ooh, I've made the inner one smaller. Well, yes. I'm going to put the shadow towards the left and bottom of the inside one and along the top and right of the outer circle. So this should look like this one is inside and sticking up, and this one's sort of like embedded into the flower, as it were. You'll see, hopefully. So I'm going to add just kind of heart-shaped petals. The tops are the tops of hearts, but the points of the hearts, well, if they were there, they'd be behind the centre of the flower. And with this one, I've got space to add an echo of that heart shape inside, just for interest. Like so. Again, don't forget we can add shadows and line weight just the same. so. And a little bit of ink between the petals just to hold them together. I could have done that one with that behind above, but I haven't because I moved on. Otherwise I'll be here all day. Who says the centre has to be completely circular, or that the circles have to be centralised, you know? They don't have to be. I'm going to put this one like so, and this one very much like so. And again, I'm going to draw an off-centre kind of shape here. It's sort of squarish, and I'm fine with that. And then I'm going to draw the edges of my petals in up to that circular line, and then I can add the tops of the petals as I wish. You see how they get flatter towards the middle top and towards the bottom, the curves, and they're most curvy around the edges. That's how I do these. So these petals I'm going to have with little wavy lines. Am I going to worry how many little waves there are on them? No, some will have more than others. And what I could do here is I could start having these, or at the top decide that the wavy bits disappear as if the petals are bent over. And then I just draw these then with a straight line, like so. And these lend themselves well to having some pattern or texture inside. So here I'm just putting lines with some dots on, coming out from the central part. Just to add texture. In the middle, I could put some circles. I could also pop a grid-like pattern. I'm doing mine horizontal and vertical, but you could do them diagonally. Now in the middle, my grid is going to start to bend out towards the sides, as it were. The lines I'm drawing are getting increasingly more bendy towards the edge, and that gives that a domed appearance, and it makes the spaces bigger in the middle, so you automatically get a highlight in. Especially if you can get extra lines in at the edge, like so. And these spaces can be filled in with patterns as well. So we could fill them in with, put a line down the middle. With, what's this one, jonquil. Like so if you want. You could use shattuck, like so. We could use any other pattern you like. I'm going to put an edge on each side of this one, and I'm going to fill it in with perk, because simply I can. And then these little waved edges become their own little seeds. And those edges are quite nice because they will separate these from the other petals. So didn't do it in those, so I'll put it in the petals next door to them, like so. Nice borders. They're not the only petal shapes we can have, or ways of filling that centre in. So here I'm going to put this round that side. I'm going to put the shadow round here as well. And then I'm going to draw lines to put segments in this outer ring. I'm going to draw a circle in for the size of the flower I want to draw, roughly. It's not perfect, but I'm going to want to draw mine in. I'm going to put 3 petals in. So I'm kind of mentally thinking about thirds. So the next ones I want these ones to go here and here, and that works out really quite nicely. Again, I'm going to go badunk, badunk, all of them. And then I'm going to pop in here, top of the heart shape, because I can. But I'm also going to add a little bit coming off the top, like the pollen. Here we are. And on the sides, little pointy V shapes for little leaves. So all of these have started from the circle in the middle. If I zoom out, why am I trying to use my mouse to do that? You can see the whole page that I've done in just over an hour. And I am going to spend a little bit of time adding some colour and shading. Excuse the rattling, it's getting some Tortillons out. I don't want that one. That one would be okay. Oh, I've got some clean ones. I've got new ones. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Excitement. I kid you not. Okay, so let's have a look at some colour on some of these. We start with this here. Let me have a look at this blue. Sorry, you're going to have an awful noise, possibly, because I'm going to use my pencil sharpener. I'll be 2 ticks though. There we go, that's better. If you use chalk pastels, don't sharpen them to a really sharp point because the point will break almost straight away. Okay, so let's have a look here. So with the chalk, I don't want to spread it too far because I'll end up with everything pretty much the same. I want to leave some places that are very light or barely coloured at all. So around the edge there. And I am going to pop some in around the edge here. So this is where the darker areas would be. And by leaving the area in between white, I'm leaving a natural highlight. It can look a little bit too white though. But I think that actually works. I quite like that blue colour. On the other side, I'm going to try this green. Perhaps I'll put the green in between these sections and just add colour here rather than all the way round. That would be interesting. Possibly. I'm going to use the same Tortillon, so I may end up with the blue mixed with this, but I don't mind, to be honest. They don't really intermix too much, surprisingly. These are Faber-Castell Pitt pastel pencils. So they are soft chalk pastels, soft pastels, as opposed to wax pastels, which are nice to use, but I hate them. They give beautiful, vibrant colours, even on coloured paper, but I end up so filthy and messy with them. So 2 different colours. Let's try on the next one. I'm going to add some purple on the inside, like so. And I'm going to add some of this green above it. Green and purple. Well, it's a bluey green, so it'll work fine. Right, I've got this here, which is the one I used for blending these colours yesterday. You get this lovely kind of glowing colour that comes off it from the green on its own, and then you mix it with the purple. It almost glows. And that's leaving, if you leave the highlight on the edge, this appears closer to you. So I am going to go back and I'm going to make under here that little bit darker with the purple now. It's always best to add less than you think you're going to need, because you can always go back and add more. And if you do it in small steps, you can control exactly how much you add. Okay, I've got a very dark blue here, and I'm going to use that in this section here. Again, I do want I haven't got one that's specifically for just a blue or dark blue. This one may squeak because it's a brand new one, and they can squeak on the paper. So I've got that one. I'll put the next lightest blue in here, because it is almost like these are in steps going upwards, possibly. Then here I'm going to add the purple here, I think. And then that inner one, this inner seed, I'm just going to make green, but I'm going to add some of the blue to it as well, this bluey green, for the depth of colour. And I'm going to try and leave an area here-ish where there would be a highlight. So two ways of doing that. For these stripy bits, I'm going to use my darkest colour in them at the base. Same here, I think, and there. Don't want too much of the colour to spread out, but I want enough to get a kind of gradient from dark to light, and just to help to bring out those highlights on the edge. And you can see the difference. Hopefully you can see the difference that's made. This is still curving, but it's almost curving up and then going flat. Yeah? Whereas this one's curving up and over, just by where you put the shadows in. Okay, why didn't do the seed inside? I think it's going to have to be a purple one. I'll add some, just drawing in the highlight then. I'm going to add some of this blue as well around the edge, as if we've got some shadow there. So where's this one? That's the one I've been using for blending. Some of that green may be on here, but I'm fine about that. It all helps to tie everything together here. And then we've got that little highlight there. There we go. And what I do need to do, if I'm going to put anything on the flowers, so far I don't need the white. These, see, they all sort of like overlap in the middle, which seems to be a natural rib, these betweeds. So I'm going to add the darkest colour there and just gently fade it up a little bit towards the sides. May need to come back and adjust this or to add a different colour in a moment. I really want to keep that nice and dark towards the centre of the betweed and not quite so on the edge. That'll work. And I may just add some more darkness to the middle. I'm just using a lighter blue because I can, and just keep that towards the centre. The trick here is just to rub it in gently. We don't want to crush the texture of the paper, because then there's no tooth for the chalk to work its way into. So it's not about pushing as hard as you can, it's about gently rubbing it in and blowing the loose bits off. So that's given some sort of feeling of folding. It's not quite what I'd like. So let me just put some of this light green on the edge, because that may just lighten that up a bit. And I'm then going to add white as well on the top of that. And it does look, it may look like all the line work has disappeared there, but honestly, it hasn't disappeared at all. It's still there. So I'm just going to rub the white in. It just helps to fix it on the paper. So that has worked to give a darker centre. So I could carry on with all of these. Let me show you about these ones here. Use these. This here, I'm going to put colour on the bottom of them. That's where it's going to be darkest. And we'll just keep that colour towards the bottom, but we will put a little bit of colour towards the top. And I'm going to put a highlight in there with white gel pen afterwards. And then I'll use the same blue, but in this one I'm going to put the blue at the top of these spaces where it's going to be darkest. And yet I can add colour around the outside of this, fill the space in with colour if I wish. The sun is really quite warm through the window, but I know it's not as warm as it feels inside as it is outside. There we go. And just to help with this, I'm going to put some white where I want the highlight to be. And yes, when I rub it in, the blue will go paler, it will turn blue, but it'll go a paler blue, which is what I want. Just at the base a little bit. Now obviously I'm using chalk pastels, but the principles of where you have shadow and light are the same no matter how you add colour to these or shading to them. So if your preference is to use graphite and white charcoal or white chalk, then the ideas are the same. If you're using watercolour, where you put the darkest colour is still the same. Just going back here and just buffing in that white again. There we go. And I can also go back and add highlights of white to my seeds. And perhaps some here, just along the edge a little bit, just to bring that back out, and perhaps some around here maybe, so it's consistent. Okay, where was the one I was using for white? That one, wasn't it? It was. There we go. All right, so they look a bit odd because I've done different patterns and different colours on each side, but that's how you work out how you'd like to do this. Okay, here with this this one I'm going to put purple all to one side, and yeah, I'm going over the colour, over the ink, because it's just too tiny to do anything else with it. And the ink will still show through anyway. And although the ink might change colour due to the colour of the charcoal put on the top, or the chalk put on the top, I'm fine with that. It is what it is. You either embrace it or you don't do this. And I'm learning to embrace it and accept there's going to be a change. So that's quite nice. I am going to put a highlight in here, which will lighten up my pen as well. And if I don't like that, I can always go back over it with the pen. what I do want to do is I'm going to add a bit of a green glow. So I'm putting that in there, and I'm just going to mix it in. And I'm going to have to go back and add a bit more white now over those bits, so I'll just use the same. There we go, so that's a bit different. This one, I'd have the shadow around the inside edge, so let's use this darkest blue round there and round the outer edge, because that seems to make some sense here with this one. So hopefully there's the bluer one. I chose the colours here because they go with the ink. I used the colour of the Aurora Borealis ink, which is kind of a turquoisey colour, kind of, to inform me what colours I would use, and I've kept it all very what's called analogous. So these are colours that are next to one another on the colour wheel. So blue greens, blues and blue purples really do appear next to each other on the colour wheel, and and so they're always harmonious together. So that's worked nicely. I think so. In fact, I prefer that to that because the colour of the ink is still very vibrant. But wait. Oh, bang crash wallet. Yeah, let's have a look. An eraser. How about that? Look at that. Look at that. You can't erase it all, but you can erase enough off it to bring that highlight out. So I've got that going on there. And you can do that on anyone that you wish. If you've, sort of like lost too much for highlight, you can, as long as you haven't worked too hard on it. So that's those. I think this one would rather like a purple and blue seed, perhaps a hint of green from the top, that subtle glow. Okay, let's see how we do here then, is it? Just going to let it spill out to these here parts, because we can. So that's quite nice. I am going to use this just to clear a highlight out. And who says we can't? And if I've misshapen it like this, it's a bit too far over there. Just come back with a Tortillon with what you've got on. And if you want it a bit brighter, the white can go on and you can gently work that in. There we go. So the principles are the same for any of these I do. Let's have a look at these leaves. Let's have a look at this one, because here I'm going to add my colours over those blobs. Because in my other drawing here, don't know if you can see, I actually, even though they're filled in with colour, I went back and added white and silver on the top. I think I just put silver in these ones, and that adds that highlight there. So I'm going to add the purple here. I'll put some of the dark blue in as well, but the base I'm going to add green. I'm not going to leave a highlight because these little lumpy bumpy things are going to be our highlights. But I will just bring that purple down a little bit more here. Perhaps ups around the side. I don't know what ups around the side is, but we've got ups around the side. And I'm going to put some of the darkest blue right up in that there part and just under there, just to bring shadow in. So let's get to the blending. Starting here, trying to keep some of the green. If it goes to this lovely sort of like purpley greyish colour, I'm fine with that. Again, I can always decide to add more green on to bring that out. That's fine. I have got a little bit over there, which is fine, a little bit there. Okay, so I am going to add a bit more white here. I'm going to add a bit of green with it as well, which could be interesting. There we go. How about that? So that's quite nice as it is. Around the edge, around this part here, I think I'm going to have purple at the bottom, and I'll have the blue there and perhaps the green at the top instead of the green fading into purple, so we get a different mixture of colours. But I think I'll just fill those in with a mix of these colours, the seeds in, but I'm going to put the dark blue on the left hand side of them. It's my dark blue one, it's there, and really put that shadow in, and a little bit on the other side, and leave a highlight there, which I'll bring out with gel pen. These I'm going to leave as they are. I'm not going to try. Oh gosh, look at that. Sometimes you've got to use a kneadable eraser and just go, right, we're not blowing all of this off, so let's go and collect the excess with this. In fact, I'm going to rub it over my desk where there's bits. There we go. So that'll help stop smudge. You can see there, I don't know if you can see the mark there, but there's where it's picked up some excess chalk, which is fine. I can live with that. Same idea with the others. Do I need to do them for you? Are you okay? If you need me to do them with you, just let me know and I'll do them again. Okay, so for white highlights, I'm using the Pentel gel pen. It's the Hybrid DX. And I'm just getting it working on the back of my hands. For some reason, skin seems to like skin to activate itself. It does get clogged up with the chalk. So here for this highlight, I'm just adding little dots there, and I'm going to do the same up here. And I'll zoom in for this one. And little dots here as well. Just bring out the highlight just to add that lightness of colour. And a couple of stray ones so it, it doesn't look too staged or too, a bit more natural. This one I'm going to add dots right the way around the edge, a little bit of the way in, to suggest that's the high point. With these ones, I'm so tempted to put them down the middle, even though it's the darkest place. It just feels the natural place to pop them. There we go. Here, I can put them on the paper because the paper isn't perfectly white. So they will make a subtle highlight, but I can have them dotting into the green as well to bring some highlights there. And the same is true here. But I'm going to put them in vertical lines through this area. Not all the way through, so like the middle third, I suppose, and where the blue is that you'll show through. With Diva Dance, what I like to do with Diva Dance is put little white dots in the black or dark blob. Now these are going to change colour because there's a lot of ink here, and there will be water or some other solvent in here that will pick it up, but it will be a lighter colour than the ink, and I'm fine with that happening. It adds more interest to this as well, like so. And I'll do the same on the other side with these. Try not to overwork it, because if I overwork it, it'll pick up a lot more colour than I want. I can't avoid it, it's what it is, so I will happily allow this to be. This one down here, I'm going to put silver. No, before I put this away, let's do highlights on each of the seeds here, like so. And then, where's my silver pen gone? I had it here. Where have I put it? There, right in front of me. So I'm going to put silver in here, and this might pick up ink from that lower shape that I put in there, that little smile. If it does, it does. In fact, I think it is. But I did this yesterday and the silver still shines through. It's just nice to have some sparkles on it. So like that. Can you get it to shine? Possibly. Oh gosh, I hate working with sparkles and cameras. Because when I can see it sparkle, the camera doesn't, and when I can't see it sparkle, the camera does. There we are. So that's all quite nice. And I could just add a couple of sparkles in with the white highlights, just for interest. I could do the same in the others. I'd approach all of the others pretty much the same way. This one, the highlights for where the larger circles are. So if you'd put largest circles on the edge, that would be your lightest part. Like I did, you know, have I done that anywhere? Not really. But it would be. Or you could just say it's just a textural pattern and just go with what you feel it should be. Same here, this one in the middle. I've got all the smaller circles are towards the outside, so I'm going to put all my colour there, and I'm just going to use, this one has got some blue on it, so it's going to change the colour of the purple just a little bit. I'm going to use that to rub this in mostly to the outside, but I'm going to bring some in over these seeds, but I'm going to try and leave highlights on them and keep that outside edge nice and dark. Even if I need to come back in with a different colour, or even graphite. So graphite works nicely with chalk pastels. As you know, graphite is not my favouriteest thing to use. It's not. It really, really is not. But in this instance, it may actually work. So I've got one here that's basically dedicated for graphite. So I'm just adding some darkness there at the top where it would be darkest, and you can see, hopefully, the difference that made. If I do it on, oh, I've got to be careful here now, haven't I? Because I've put the silver on. I'm putting some graphite on this side. Here, and I've put it on the corresponding side over there, and you can see the difference that makes, I'm sure. Put some around the bottom edge perhaps, as long as I'm careful. We'll put a little bit here, particularly around this. There we go. As long as I'm careful, we won't disturb the glitter too much. Up here, and that just adds that extra bit of contrast and helps to bring dimension to this. Part of me thinks it'd be better to put the graphite down first, and I'm going to do this, just try some out on here, either with or without buffing the graphite in, because, you know, we have choices. I'd want a smaller one really to buff the graphite in with these, but this is what it is. So we've got that going on, and with these I am going to put white gel pen here. Like so. Yeah. So that brings that highlight in, perhaps a couple of them in the larger ones, just to make it look less like a weird eye. It's true. Okay, and this one as well is we put the shading underneath here. Like so, and then just put that in. Not overworking it, trying to keep the graphite just in one area because I still want the colour to show through. Okay, let's, oh look at that, I've managed to get glitter everywhere there. Oh well, hey ho, it is what it is. Try graphite before chalk pastel, so I'll just do these ones. I want some shading there, some shading here. Use this just to smooth it out that little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do some purple petals because of the alliteration. For no other reason. Purple petals. Oddly in Welsh, I say oddly in Welsh, purple is porfor, which is quite sweet really. And I have had purple hair in the past. I've had all kinds of colours, pink. Like not long ago I did my hair temporarily violet, light shade of violet. I did it really patchy, I didn't, you know, so a wash in temporary one. You mix with your conditioner and just leave it on for 5 minutes or so. And I really did a bad job. I wasn't thinking straight when I did it, but I've got the pink I used was lovely as well. But I used too much pink and too much purple. It was far too bright a colour for me now. Yeah. Or too big a change perhaps in one go. So yeah, the graphite does work, and you can see the difference in the tone of the purple there compared to here. It does dull it down, but it does add that intensity. Choice is yours. I'd prefer to use a darker colour chalk, to be honest. But let me zoom out so you can have a good look at this. So in about, oh gosh, nearly 2 hours, I've done all of this. And that's going to go in my little notebook journal. Now I haven't even gone outwards, have I? Let's try again. Nice one, Angela. We got there in the end. So I got there. So this is today's project, and I no doubt I'll add some more. And I'm sort of like inspired by my own inspiration. It's kind of for today's video, which was going to be reproducing this, but I've ended up looking at the elements I used in here, apart from the leaves and this, and the background texture. Actually, that background texture has appeared more or less here. And did I use that anywhere else? Yeah, over here. So, to have a look at these and some variations that you can try. And this is something I really love doing, and I don't do often enough. It's fun. And then I've now got a page, nearly a page, full of inspiration for future projects, things I can look back on. And that's the whole idea of me keeping a journal and keeping pieces of paper like this in a place where I can find them, because they tend to get lost if they're not stuck into things. They get put to one side and I can never find them again. And then the next day I find them and I go, oh, that's too late, and then I lose them again. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've had fun. drawing along with me or having a go yourself. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video, which may or may not be tomorrow. So I'm not going to say when it's going to be, because I know my older sister's visiting the area at the moment, so it may be a day out tomorrow. I don't know, but we'll see. So until then, you take care, be creative, and have fun playing around with things and seeing what variations you can come up with and what patterns you like to use to fill things in. It's all the starting point. That's all for now.